Right, I'm going to do a video about how to deal with bailiffs. I've noticed a pretty worrying trend over the last probably 18 months at the fact that bailiffs turning up, particularly for council tax, will turn up with 2 police officers, which I find incredibly strange because if we consider it from a legislative position, the 1992 Local Government Finance Act clearly stipulates that council tax debt or council tax arrears are a civil matter. Now, the first thing I'll say when dealing with bailiffs, the most important thing is answer the door, get through the door and lock it behind you, because there is virtually no grounds whatsoever that a bailiff can break into your property. Okay, that's the first and most important thing. So make sure all the main exits to the house are locked. Now, I'm not giving you this video as an excuse to get out of paying what you owe. What I am doing it for is there are, in the vast majority of cases, substantive mitigation for why people can't pay their council tax. And fundamentally, bailiffs are targeting and punishing the poorest of society. The vast majority of cases that I've seen and that I've helped people with have genuinely been down to the fact that they aren't able to pay. They don't have the money. I can give my own personal experience of being forced off benefits while I was genuinely very ill. I've never been on benefits in my life. I've been very fortunate to have paid more in tax than some people have earned gross in a year, and I'm very grateful for that. But what it does mean is I've paid a huge amount into the pot, but when I came to take my bit out, it was one of the most difficult experiences of my life, and we ended up in a position where we were forced into a position where we had no money, so we couldn't afford to pay our council tax. We were living off a few £100s a month, and that was to feed 2 adults and 2 children. Local authorities are not the most understanding. So this is one of the reasons I'm going to give you the tools over probably a number of videos. It's going to be difficult to get it all into one, of how to deal with bailiffs. The first and most important thing is to talk to them, but do it with the door locked behind you. Don't give them any details. Don't give them your name, date of birth, anything. That's for them to prove who you are. One of the first things I'd also say is to ask the police officers, are they here in accordance with their oath? A very important question. We live in a society that's based upon a Pelian policing system. Now, the first important part of a Pelian policing system is we're policed by consent. Secondly, a police officer has to remain impartial at all times. So if you appear to see them siding with the bailiff, raise it with them. Say, be polite, say, sir, miss, can I have your name and collar number, please? And ask them, are you acting in accordance with your oath? Fundamentally, the answer will be no. It has to be, because they are backing up and supporting what is fundamentally a civil matter, not a criminal matter, because the third and most important part of a police officer's role is to maintain the peace. Now, what they'll say to you is, we're here to prevent a breach of the peace. So that's why it's so important to remain calm, non-aggressive, just state your point. Don't acknowledge any debt. Say to the bailiff, if there is a debt that is owed to your client, I have no grounds of contract with you, so I will not be discussing this. If you're in dispute over your council tax, say that, but don't make the link. So say, if there is an issue, it's in dispute and that's being dealt with outside of you and your company. Because fundamentally, an individual coming to your house who you've never contracted with, demanding money, is illegal. Okay? Particularly with council tax, for example, because you have a contract with your local authority to provide certain services for payment. You never at any point gave authority for that debt to be passed to a third party to manage. And that's very important. The other thing is, get video of the entire event. First thing, police nor bailiffs like being recorded, because it changes the dynamic of the way they treat you when they know that there's a source that you have to prove the conduct and behaviour. The second thing, they will try and give you copies of the warrant, copies of the documentation. Do not, under any circumstances, actually touch it. Ask them to hold it up and take photographs. Or if you're recording it and you're on your own, just line it up, wait for the camera to focus, get as much detail off it as you possibly can. The reason for this is, again, if you touch it, it gives them legal argument that you've accepted the documentation. So do not touch the paperwork under any circumstances. Make your point to the police very clear that you feel threatened and intimidated and harassed with their presence. Ask them, why are they engaging in a civil matter? And if they say, we're here to prevent a breach of the peace, try and make your mitigation of why this bill that's alleged, this debt, is unfair and why you're justifying it. If they try and tell you, we're not here to listen to that, say, again, are you acting within your oath? Are you acting as in complete impartiality? If they answer no, they've got a problem. They won't. So then they have to listen to what you've got to say. Depending on the individual, this might buy you a bit of time. It might get them to at least alleviate the pressure temporarily. The other thing that's very important, and I'll put a list of examples in the description of this video below, okay, is to know your rights. There are next to no circumstances where a bailiff is able to break into your property, but if you invite them in, once they've crossed the threshold once, they can come in as many times as they like. Another important thing is to remain calm, polite, explain that you're peacefully resisting. You may find if you stand at a door, a bailiff may try and push past you. That's assault. End of story, that's assault. It's one of the reasons it's so important to record the encounter, okay? Because if you ask, and this is very important to do this in a specific order, if you ask the police officers in the very first instance, are you here acting in accordance with your oath? Because fundamentally, like we've already explained, a policeman's oath is very, very simple. It's to act with complete impartiality, to keep the peace, and to act in the public interest. They are the most important things. But also the policing by consent, very, very important. I may do a separate video on that completely, because fundamentally under a Pelian system we're policed by consent, so we have to give our consent to a police officer to be policed by them. It's part of the problem with why we have this complex dictionary of dual use terms called legalese. For example, the term understand. Now, if I asked you 2 + 2 = 4, do you understand? You'd interpret that as, do I comprehend the calculation you just gave me? When you are read a police caution, for example, with the situation of you have the right to remain silent, blah, 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 about anything you do, say, do you understand? They're not asking you whether you comprehend the statement that they've just read you. What they're asking you is, do you stand under me? I am giving you authority over my being. Now, I'm not a freeman. I'd like to make very clear. I believe in the principles of common law, and I believe the principles that the vast majority of Western governments base their parliamentary and legal systems against the Magna Carta, because it stood the test of time. There are a huge amount of myths about what you can and you can't get away with. The problem is, a situation has been developed now where you've got lots of people who've kind of invested a little bit of time into the Freeman movement and don't really understand what it's about, because it's not about just disregarding all law. That's a ridiculous concept, but what it is about is understanding that you do have a sovereign right as a person, as a human blood, flesh, soul, and that what we are seeing with bailiffs and what they're doing is frankly disgusting. They use terms like warrant. That's a bullshit term. It's just meant to frighten you, so it's closer to what the police say. If you notice, lots of bailiff companies now are sending their bailiffs out in black jackets, black trousers, black boots. They are bringing out pieces of paper that, particularly again for council tax, that they've got an arrest warrant and that they can arrest you. Can they fuck? Can they fuck? They can do fuck all. They're just goons. Personally, my opinion of bailiffs, I think you're the fucking scum of the earth. You're a stone's throw from a paedophile, because you get paid an extortionate amount of money. I know a few bailiffs. They're fucking minted. And one of them, to be fair to him, I do this job because it earns me a shitload of money, and I get a great life out of it. And he doesn't care about the misery that he's spreading. Have a look at suicide rates of postgraduate students. Have a look at suicide rates across the board, which are down to debt and the bullying tactics of bailiffs. Capita, I've done a few videos on TV licensing. I will do a few more of information that's come to light recently. It's bollocks. What a bailiff has when they turn up is basically a voluntary possessions order, where they're able to write down a load of shit and say, if you don't pay this bill, we will take property of these items to sell them at auction. Don't let them across the threshold. Don't allow them into the property. Resist peacefully. There's fuck all they can do. Ask the police consistently, are you here on your oath? Ask them, why are they involved in a civil matter? Now, so long as you make that point clear and you can convey your knowledge to the police that you know you're on about, they will not side with the bailiff. But it's very important that you point out to the fact, are you here on your oath? Okay, so if you're just here to prevent a breach of the peace, I'm resisting peacefully. This man isn't coming into my house. Do not, under any circumstances, let that bailiff's foot anywhere near your door. If you have a back door protected by a gate, go out through the gate, lock the door behind you, come out. Talk to them, grab as much information. There's a little few misconceptions that there needs to be a bench warrant that's signed in wetting from a judge. This is a very difficult one, because from the legal concept, no, all that needs to exist is that warrant somewhere, but that has to be confirmed. Fundamentally, if you stand your ground, stand your rights, and just kind of go down the route that I'm telling you and stick to that. Stay calm, no access to the property, peacefully resisting. I'll give you a list of things in the description, what to say, what not to say, what to ask, what not to do. But on the whole, remain calm, don't raise your voice, be polite. Don't, they will try and bait you. The police will also try and bait you to try and get a reaction out of you. But making the point to the police that, are they on their oath? Are they acting impartially? And understand that you consent to be policed by them. So avoid as much conversation with them as you can. Don't answer their questions. Just ask them, are you here on your oath? Are you acting impartially? And are you here as a public servant? As a trustee public servant? That's the most important thing to ask, because they are public servants, but they're trustee position. Once you're recording them, they tend to back down straight away. If you see them going off, say, to the other side of the road to have a conversation with the bailiff, you ask them, can you just repeat what he said, because you're supposed to be acting impartially. This is supposed to be a discussion to resolve a problem. Stick to this, and that's the first hurdle to get over. I'll put some links to some really good websites underneath. Beating the bailiffs and the banks.co.uk, I think, is one. Brilliant, very good, loads of information. They've also got a Facebook page. And just remember what your rights are. You're a human being. You're also sovereign. People make this assumption that the Queen is the only one that's sovereign. No, we all have sovereign right. All of us have sovereign right. And we have seen a system developing over the last few years that's basically been developed to control us by fear. I'm going to do another video on TV licensing. Hopefully I'll get that posted later today, where Capita are trying some new tricks and stuff at the minute, which is it's con artistry and it's bullying, and they are going after the most vulnerable in society. And you know what? It's about time we said fuck off. No, it's not happening. I actually had a really good conversation with the bailiff outside recently, who helped us out greatly by saying, look, I'll say that we've had a look around, there's fuck all here. I am in dispute with my council tax, but there's a good reason for it. When I feel that the local authority have acknowledged the situation and the wrong that they did, I'll pay it. But when I've had two solicitors say to me, no, that's blatant entrapment, they've forced you down a route. Although we don't have entrapment laws, what they said was you were forced down a route of following their expertise so they could screw you. I'm not going to tolerate that. I am not going to tolerate that, and I'm determined to give people the tools to be able to get the bailiffs off their doorsteps until they're in a position where they can settle legitimate deaths. Proof of claim is one of the most important aspects when a bailiff comes up to your door. Ask them it. Can you give me the proof of claim? Can you provide me the information that I owe you and your company as a representative, what I owe you? They won't be able to answer the question, I promise you. I'll put some stuff in the descriptions. Subscribe, like, all that kind of crap if you want to. I don't really care. It's not why I do it. Take care, guys.